No.
All right.
He knows it starts at 6.
It's 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reading of the call.
Dear Supervisor, please be advised that the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors will meet at 6 p.m. on October 17th, 2022 in the County Boardroom. All County Board members' claims are due in the County Clerk's office by noon on October 7th, 2022, so they can be prepared for Audit Committee approval. Sincerely, Paul Severson, County Clerk.
Roll call.
Oh, sure. Bridget Turner.
Here.
Stacy Klein.
Here.
Richard Seisha.
He's going to be late.
Lori Severson.
Here.
Andy Todd.
Here.
Heather Fritsch.
Here.
Kevin Adams.
Here.
Dick Miller.
Here.
David Orsch is in Nashville. John Austin.
Here.
Robert Becker.
Present.
Dan Schreiner.
Here.
Kellen Nelson.
Here.
Jeannie Nutter. Oh, David Larson.
I'm here too.
My thumb went like this.
I'm here
David
as well.
Larson. Jeannie Nutter.
I'm here too,
Ron
next to Dave
Johnson.
Larson.
15.
14 and 2 absent.
Oh, that's right. One board member. I forgot about
Yep.
14. Okay. We did the roll call, so open meeting law requirements been met with posting and notification. We have a 11-item agenda. One thing I'd like to move up under the appearances part, switch the A and B around. Samuel's group, Kurt Berner's been here all day long with department heads and figure it's time for him to get home, and he only take up, what,
3
5
hours, huh?
5 minutes max, so anyway.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the agenda with that amendment?
We had it right
Yeah.
here.
Johnson Nutter.
Johnson and another, okay.
Sounds like a law firm.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, it's carried. Minutes. Is there more than one or just one?
Just one.
Minutes from December 26th meeting. All those, somebody will make a motion to approve. Motion by Nutter, second by Mr. Becker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Were there no questions?
No questions, no mistakes. All right, we'll go to Samuel's group. Mr. Berner.
Evening, everyone. Thanks for moving the agenda for me. Like John had mentioned, today we had our second day with all of the department heads kind of going through the programming and space programming for the renovation portion of the project. So that process is still underway. I will say that it was a good discussion with all the department heads. Everybody's pretty open in regards to options and opportunities for the renovation portion of the project. We're targeting to have some of that preliminary layout work ready for the property committee on November 14th for some feedback from department heads as well as the committee, and then put together a strategy for what can we do for a couple of options with the renovation of the existing campus. So that's underway. As for the addition, I think most of you, as you drove up, saw a lot of the steel is in place, bar joists are going, decking is going on in Area B, and then following into Area A. Area C has a roof on it. Area D is about 80% complete with the roof. Should be wrapped up here in the next couple of days, and then we'll continue to work towards the addition here to keep things, get things watertight. Temporary windows will be going in so we can start to heat the building and keep things on schedule as we had planned for interior finishes to take place. A lot of the interior walls, mechanical, electrical, plumbing are all being roughed in at the time. So progress is moving along and we're on schedule. In regards to the overall safety, still a safe site, no lost time accidents. Very thankful for all the tradespeople that are putting an effort into that and making that a priority for themselves and obviously for the county as a whole. So that's about all I have for an update. Things are moving along well. Any questions from anyone?
No questions? 3 of us went through the building the other day. It's quite a establishment. A lot of work's been done there since last time I was through it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
anyway,
Just
Thank
wanna-
you,
Okay.
Kurt.
Thanks,
Mr.
everyone.
Chair,
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, I just want to
Yeah.
add to Kurt's, Dan and I were just talking about, all the department heads were very nice to work with.
Absolutely.
They were cooperative in shrinking it down, and it sounded like it should come out a lot better than what it was.
Yeah,
For cost-wise.
And the discussion is, come up with a game plan for how do we reuse as much of the space as we can. Obviously, there's going to be some adjustments that need to be made, and we're doing our best to find the most economic way to get that done. So, okay, thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Drive safely.
And is Jessica here?
Not yet.
Oh,
6:15.
She said she'd be here at 6:50.
okay. Now we'll go into the green light. You want to read the proclamation?
I sure can. Whereas the residents of Trumpealeau County have great respect, admiration, and utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. Whereas the contributions and sacrifices of men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Trempealeau County seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, veterans of foreign wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And where approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually, and whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future. And whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life. And whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. And whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Green Light for veterans. And whereas Trumpealeau County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted, therefore be it now, I, John Austin, declare Trumpealeau County with designation as a green light for Veterans County. I further declare October through Veterans Day, November 11th, 2022, and in each year following as a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service, that in observation of Operation Greenlight, Trumpealeau County encourages its citizens to patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or residence, and that the Trumpealeau County Clerk be directed to forward a copy of this proclamation to Governor Tony Evers, the Wisconsin Counties Association, Trumpealeau County's elected state representatives, and to each Wisconsin county. Signed under my hand this 17th day of October, 2022, John Austin.
Move to approve?
We don't have to approve it, it's a proclamation.
Okay, well, we love it, so we want to.
And I got a green light.
Actually, that one won't work for us because we wanted to put it out front for the entrance.
Right.
What's
It
the
won't.
LED green light? Where did you get it?
It was-
Amazon sent it to us, 4 green light.
But Jeremy said he can change the color of the lights out to any color you want. So
Green light
he's gonna next week, some this week or by the end of this week, there should be green lights
on the front.
on the front.
I didn't order it. It came, yeah, they sent it.
Well, I'm gonna look right now.
It's part of green light. Somebody would like a green bulb for their home if you live in town or want to make use of it. You can, yeah.
So
Yeah, they're all over. So anyway, thank you. Now we'll go to, no, she's not here yet. Should we'll just go to the highway
We'll keep
one.
moving.
We'll go to the highway one just to keep things moving. This is the one we did last time. It had wrong figures in. Now we supposedly have the right figures, so.
I sure hope so. No, it does. Whereas the various towns hereinafter named have filed petitions for county aid in the construction of bridges under Section 82.8 of the Wisconsin statutes. Now be it resolved that said petitions are hereby granted and the county share appropriated for year 2022 as follows. Town of Arcadia, Brzezinski Lane, $2,944.83. Creek Road, $375.70. Middle Road, $504.19. North Creek Road, $19,243.67. Pica Road, $30,191.86. Rainy Valley, $3,561.27. Trout Run, $9,073.52. And then in the town of Ettrick, Dopp Road, $4,989.20. Haggested Road, $3,628.61. Heimdall Road, $11,058.63. Holman Road, $5,834.80 in the town of Hale. Also in the town of Hale, Cowell Road, $43,846.33. And Knightsky Road, $478.94. In the town of Pigeon, Fitch Cooley, $3,590.17. And then in the town of Preston, Bradley Road, $36,810.28. Marsh Road, $1,645.51. Corney Road, $3,086.20 for a grand total of $180,863.71. Introduced by Trumbull County Highway Committee, John Austin, Kellen Nelson, Dan Schreiner, Dave Larson, Robert Becker.
Motion by Heather to approve.
Second.
Second was where? Oh, Kellen? Mr. Nelson? Okay, any discussion at all? Did anybody follow the figures to make sure they're right this time? Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying,
I'll
oh,
do
this is a roll call because of money. Roll call.
Okay. Oops, I got the wrong sheet anyway. Dang it. That would have been another roll call. Come on. Kevin Adams.
Aye.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
John Austin.
Yes.
Robert Becker.
Yes.
Dan Schreiner.
Yes.
Kellen Nelson.
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Ron Johnson.
Yes.
Bridget Turner.
Yes.
Stacy Klein.
Yes.
Lori Severson.
Yes.
Andy Todd.
Yes.
Heather Fritsch.
Yes.
14 and 0.
Okay,
She's here now.
I see Jennifer's here now.
Jessica.
Is that correct?
Jessica?
Or Jessica?
Cool.
Okay, anti-harassment training with Jessica from Aegis Corporation.
Daryl wrote instructions, he said.
What's?
Daryl wrote instructions.
Huh.
Webcam will need to be unplugged.
What needs to be unplugged?
The what?
This is what they sent me.
You don't want this to be broadcast?
Yeah, they don't want to be broadcasting this, apparently.
So while Tim is taking care of the IT side of this, for those of you I haven't formally met, my name's Kayla. I'm your HR generalist. I will be serving as interim HR director while Krista is on leave, which will happen by the end of this week. If not, by the end of today, I don't know.
Soon.
Very soon, yes, and she's ready. So I'm here tonight to introduce Jessica Schrader. She is our risk management consultant from Aegis Corporation. She's going to be completing your anti-harassment and discrimination training. So as you may be aware, our harassment, bullying, retaliation.
You okay now?
Okay. Policy was recently updated to include board members within the scope of that policy. So as part of that, we do training annually, or I think it's actually every 3 years with that, for all highway and all courthouse employees. So now you guys get to be part of that group. I'm not going to stay for the entire duration of the meeting, so I am going to pass around a sign-in sheet just to document that this training was completed. If you could please sign your name on it and give to Rick, he can get that to me in the morning. That's all I have.
Okay. Are we set to go yet? Okay. Item B, from Exec Finance, the transfer of ARPA funds for upgrading the radio towers.
Whereas,
Go ahead, read the
whereas
resolution.
Trumbull County is the PSAP, Public Safety Access Point, for all Trumbull County emergency services, including law enforcement, fire services, and EMS services. Whereas in 2011, more than 70% of the current radio system, including 5 of 7 tower sites and the equipment at each of the sites, 5 sites, went online. Whereas the life expectancy of the system at that time was 10 years. And whereas all the equipment at each of the 7 sites is outside the service window and not repairable. And whereas we are currently relying on a diminishing source of used equipment to replace failing equipment at each site. And whereas the solution proposed by Baycom is to upgrade the components at all 7 sites at a cost of $1,138,962.20. And whereas due to current system vulnerabilities, all communications are at risk of catastrophic failure. And whereas building in system redundancy greatly reduces the risk of catastrophic failure. And whereas the solution proposed by Baycom is to add a full microwave replacement with a loop at a cost of $166,922. Whereas the radio coverage in the Pigeon Falls area of Trumbull County is very poor for both paging and radio transmission. And whereas the solution proposed by Baycom is to add an additional tower site in the Pigeon Falls area to improve coverage in that area at a cost of $307,168.42 for equipment and $422,500 for a newly constructed tower. And whereas due to the design of the current radio system, there is a risk of catastrophic failure if the single control tower were to quit working. And whereas the solution proposed by Baycom is to design the additional Pigeon Falls tower at a second control tower at a cost of $62,196. Now be it resolved that the Trumbull County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the transfer of money not to exceed $2,097,748.62 from the county's ARPA funds to account number 101.52160.249 for the purpose of upgrading the radio equipment as stated in this resolution and as proposed by Baycom. Introduced by Law Enforcement Committee Dan Schreiner, Ron Johnson, Stacy Klein. Executive Finance Committee Riley Foltz, David Larson, Richard Seisha, John Austin.
Motion by Mr. Schreiner, second by Mr. Johnson. We'll get you next time. Any discussion? We have the sheriff here, if you want to hear this. I think he's talked to the full board before. We also have a representative from Baycon here.
I got a question.
Yeah.
And the cost of, $1.1 million, that's just to put the electronics in, or is that put new antennas and do all new wiring?
Replacing all. I always forget. Correct, and Byron Hardage is on the phone too. He's one of our system engineers, so if he wants to chime in at all, Byron, I don't know if you can do that where you're at. So that is to replace antennas, the microwave dishes, all the components within the tower shelter itself.
All the electronics?
Correct.
Well, that comes out to be $164,000 apiece for the 7 towers. But in the new tower, you're charging 300 and some thousand. How come it's so much? more if it's just the same electronics that you're putting in all the other ones?
Byron?
The reason for that is that's not all that's going into the new tower. At each of the existing towers, there's a shelter, air conditioner, all kinds of extra equipment that has to be put at the new site, and that's why the extra expense.
Well, if you just told us that you're replacing everything in the other ones,
Yes,
and to
in-
put a little hut up that you put these things in is not $150,000. You could build a pretty nice place for that. I don't quite understand, because originally you just said that you're replacing everything.
Correct, the building, the generator, so you're talking about site work, anything, all the site development that goes into that, so it gets, there's more components to it than,
Good question.
And that's pretty record tower too, isn't it? Or is that separate? But that's also gonna have some, equipment for redundancy for control tower as well, that
Correct.
isn't on all the other sites.
The redundancy's another cost in here, so that's,
I'm sorry. When you
The
asked if we were replacing all the antennas and cables, no, we are not replacing the antennas and cables for the RF, for the actual radio system. Unless they're damaged or show us that they don't work, for some reason, there would be no reason to replace those. The microwave equipment is what's being replaced. Some of the cabling is being reused. The antennas, the microwave dishes, are being replaced, and some of the ones that aren't compatible with the new equipment, some of those lines are being replaced, but not all the antennas.
Is there some sort of warranty as we move forward then, once it's all been looked at and repaired and some fixed, some not?
right, so everything will be back under like a 1-year standard manufacturer warranty. And then as the system is today, we'll have a maintenance agreement with the county in place where Baycom services all of those components for a yearly fee. So just like the system that we are operating under today, it'll be covered 24/7. We come out for anything that's wrong with the system.
1 year. That's it.
Yeah, on the equipment, correct.
Will this deplete the ARPA fund?
That's what I'm referring to, using ARPA funds.
So it'll, when this is, how much will remain in that fund?
If this resolution passes, there will still be $1,285,222.38.
Well, you know I'm not anti-law enforcement. My husband was in law enforcement his whole life, nearly died on the job. And everybody knows how I feel about ARPA funds. And I've looked at other counties and how they're using this money. For example, Eau Claire County put together an ARPA committee, which consisted of county board members, people in the community, people from nonprofit agencies to look at, and granted, Eau Claire County got a lot more money than we did, but they have a community committee to look at how to best use the funds. In Ashland, the mayor attended many meetings that Mark O'Connell did through Wisconsin Counties Association to assist counties in how to use this money wisely. And she talked about some advice she got from Mr. O'Connell, who's the head of WCA. And he talked about how you really need to think about how you're going to use this money because it's a really big investment in your county. And needing to do something that's going to create the biggest return in the county, which includes helping people. And I understand that the system is crap and we need to do something about it. But we also have people who suffered. I've been waiting for years to get a mobile crisis unit up and running in the Department of Human Services. And what the mayor of Ashland said is, these funds need to be put towards they need to be thoughtfully spent and put to use in something that's meaningful to the county. And, I feel like $2 million went to the building for over costs runs. 2 million is going to this, and I get it. I know that we need this, but I'm just trying to advocate for the people in the county who have really suffered during COVID. We are talking about the senior citizens in this county who are completely isolated, and sometimes the only person they see is the home delivered meal person. We are not doing anything to support them. I got a call today from Amanda at the Whitehall Library. She has people coming into the library. They have no place to go. There's homeless, and some of the people that are coming into the library are being let out of jail, and they don't have anywhere to go. I mean, I just want people to focus, to do some long-range planning and to focus on how we can support the people in this county. And we're never going to get this money again, but I'm just speaking for people who don't have a voice.
Yeah, I guess I think of this more as helping everyone in the county. When we had the bad storm in December, I was at home with my mother, who's senior. And when the system went down for a little while and you couldn't get anybody, I was worried for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I look at this plan as maybe not exactly fitting into, say, mental health, but certainly fitting into the need to have emergency services in any way, shape, or form.
What I wish would have happened is we could
how I
flip
look
this.
at it.
The first $2 million that we gave to the jail, let's give that to our communication. Let's get that other $2 million back and support the people in our, because I understand this.
Yeah.
My husband was in law enforcement. He got stabbed 13 times, nearly died. And thank God that, well, there wasn't a 911 system when that happened, but an operator from AT&T called the police. I understand that need, but I'm just saying there are so many needs in this community, in this county, and we have to start long-range planning. Thank God for the Parks Committee. It's one area I work where we think ahead and are planning ahead, and economic development, and it's just.
Mr. Miller.
I know people don't like hearing me talk about it, but it's my
Mr. Miller.
feeling.
Thank you. I think Jean makes a good point about planning ahead, and I know the question was posed when we first discussed this type of renovation of the equipment. Why weren't we putting money aside on an annual basis? And I think that's a good. This is part of planning, and I think that's something we need to keep in mind. But I do have a question first, and I may have an amendment to make. Did the Exec Finance Committee take anything from the undesignated fund? What the right term is, unassigned fund now, isn't it? The general fund. Yeah. Was any amount of money taken from that to balance the proposed budget?
300 and some.
$321,000.
321, okay. Well, I found a figure like that, and I thought maybe that was the
It'd be
case.
on those sheets that I handed out,
Yeah.
budget sheets that you got.
Well, as much as I hate to attack this fund, I'm going to make an amendment, if I may. I would amend this, and I'm amending the be it now resolved, or be it resolved, and it would read as, change would be as follows. Now be it resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the transfer of money not to exceed $1,597,748.62 from the county's ARPA funds and $500,000 from the unassigned fund balance of the general fund. So I'm simply suggesting we reduce that by $500,000, maintain a little higher balance in the ARPA funds, and take that from the unassigned fund balance. And there, I think we have another problem we needed in terms of long-term planning. I just throw that out and then I'll keep still here. we need to decide how much we want to maintain that unassigned fund balance at. We've not done that over the years. There's been talk about it, but we've never proceeded to set a balance that we want to maintain.
I thought our goal on that was 2.5 million.
No,
The only goal that you have is that working capital.
yeah.
Which
no,
is-
We haven't done that. Where we've done that, John, is on the workman's comp. We did set that particular balance we want to maintain. So I would make that as amendment to the resolution as printed.
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Snyder. Any further discussion?
Do we have 500,000 extra in the unassigned fund?
That is at about 3.6,
It's in your packets also.
about 3.6 million, and then it was clarified that there's 300 and some thousand that would be coming out of that to help balance the budget. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what would the figure be if we did this 500,000?
It'll be 3.1 million.
We'd still have,
It'd be reducing that about 800,000, yes.
yeah, we reduce it by 300 or
Could you,
800.
could you say that we'd have 3.1 million in that unassigned fund if
And so-
500,000 went and 350 to the
Not
budget?
the 350.
the
Oh, not
350.
counting the
The 321 would be coming up
321
later.
Okay.
would come out.
Okay,
But it would still be 2 million,
close to 3 million.
2 million.
2.8.
Close to 2 million eight, right?
Yeah.
We gotta maintain some kind of a rating, correct, for our.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons you want to leave that 2 million plus in there. I don't want to see it go below 2.5.
What is it called? Something in Poor's rating is
Standard and Poor's
double A. It's not triple A anymore, but it's double A.
minus.
Double A minus.
We gotta keep it at a certain amount.
That's
They
one of
look at
the
a
things
whole-
they look at when they
a
rate.
whole lot of things when they come up with that, so that's part of it, though.
Yeah,
I don't know if the rest of the room noticed it, but Supervisor Nutter did claim that the Parks Committee is the only committee that's planning.
No, the only committee I'm on.
Yeah, well, you didn't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was in my head. It was
Well, it wasn't in my head.
well, there were a
so
lot of things, there were a lot of
I
things
need to
in my.
claim that there are other committees that are doing planning
Right,
as
I
well.
agree, but as a,
And I must say, my own experience is, I've worked through, this will be the fourth communication system that I have worked with. The way technology works is, this technology will work for this much time, and when it does, it needs to be replaced. It is not an if, it's a when. Now, there have been times in my career where we have had to scramble, had to look for parts, have had to buy parts off of eBay, and this is to provide service to the taxpayers of Trempealeau County. Currently, our system needs to be replaced. Could it go farther? Maybe. But there's another guarantee, and the longer it takes you to replace it, the more it's going to cost. This is an issue that needs to be dealt with now. I'm not that concerned with where the money comes from, but just that we can get the money to pay for it and do it now to provide that service to those people that Jeannie's talking about that need help in this county. But it's nice to be able to send the fire department where they need to go, ambulances where they need to go, and law enforcement where they need to go.
and I agree with you 100%. No, I don't think it's fair to say to shut me off.
Well, you had your 3 catches.
I don't
This
think
will
I
be your
did.
last one.
I know, this will be my
You know what the
third one.
rules are.
Yeah.
This, I'm sorry, forget it.
Okay.
Call the question.
Stacy wants to make a comment.
I just wanted to add a caveat that we discussed in the committee meetings, that this is a project that we'd have to pay over 2 years and 50% would be upfront. Is that correct? Or in the first year, more or less?
Typically, yes.
Yeah.
And as a project approval standpoint, we'd put down 50%. Based on the timing of where we're at in the budget year, you would be able to put it probably across 2 years. If it got approved in 2022, you would be putting your 50% down, and then billing would happen at project completion. So as we discussed at the committee, that's kind of a to be determined. We would hope, by next fall, everything would be great. But, in the way of the world, we can't guarantee if, a piece of equipment might slow us down a little bit. Based on experience with other county systems, we kind of feel pretty okay with that timeline. But there's always that if scenario. But yeah, so to your point, it would not necessarily be one big chunk of money. You could spread it over two budget years.
Yeah, and so what we had discussed is that it's possible that we may not need that entire amount from the ARPA funds. It might be able to come from somewhere else later down the road, but allocating that for now, and I think I agree with Dan, where it's just a necessity to figure out where it comes from isn't as big of the sense of urgency as it is to get the project started.
Okay, any further discussion? I think the question was called for, and that would be on the amendment to take 500,000 of this figure of the 2.97 of the 2,997,000. I wrote over mine. What was it?
This number right here
Okay.
is broken down by this.
2,097,000. Take 500, so it would end up being 1,597,000. Is that right? Is that the way you're reading?
748.60.
Never 500,000. So anyway, so this is just strictly on the amendment. So can we do that with a roll call vote?
Let's do, I think, a voice vote, just because it's talking about the money and where it's coming
Okay.
from, so. just to be
Okay,
safe.
this is
Okay, we'll start that way.
This is the amendment to take 500 from the general fund, to put in, and this is Mr. Miller's amendment, so we'll call the roll on the. Oh, we need we needed a motion in a second, we had that, so we're just gonna call the roll now.
You want to, or,
I thought you were gonna do voice.
I thought you said voice vote.
No,
No.
roll.
Roll.
Yep.
There you go.
Sorry.
Okay. This is on the amendment. Okay. Bridget Turner,
Yes.
Stacy Klein,
Yes.
Richard Seisha,
No.
Lori Severson,
Yes.
Andy Todd,
No.
Heather Fritsch,
Yes.
Kevin Adams,
Yes.
Dick Miller,
Yes.
John Austin,
No.
Robert Becker,
Yes.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
No.
David Larson,
No.
Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Ron Johnson,
No.
9-6, passes.
Okay, passes, so moved. Now we're back to the original motion, but the 500 is coming
As amended.
as amended. So the new motion would just be the whole,
We
except
still
for,
have that motion is still on the floor.
yeah.
We're gonna have to
The
have
motion
another
on the
motion.
floor is to, I think, the agreement of this deal is the 2,000,005 plus the 5 coming out of general fund, so it's back to the original amount, but 500,000 of it will be coming from the general fund. So I'm gonna call the rules on that one.
You ready for that? There's no more to discuss.
Unless there's any.
But do anybody else want to discuss that? Seeing none, go ahead with the roll.
Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Bridget Turner,
Yes.
Stacy Klein,
Yes.
Richard Seisha,
Yes.
Lori Severson,
Yes.
Andy Todd,
Yes.
Heather Fritsch,
Yes.
Kevin Adams,
Yes.
Dick Miller,
Yes.
John Austin,
Yeah.
Robert Becker,
Yes.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
David Larson,
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Passed. All
Just
right.
as a point of reference on on your general fund balances, there's also that desired unassigned for working capital that we were talking about. That's what we call the 3-month thing. So that's 1.6 million, 1.68 million.
Let's see, item C, participate in Rural Partners Network.
Whereas Northwestern Wisconsin Community Network, NWCN, is an intergovernmental group consisting of the city of Altoona, the city of Augusta, the village of Fairchild, Eau Claire County, Dunn County, Clark County, Buffalo County, Pepin County, and Chippewa County. Whereas the NWCN seeks to grow local businesses and improve infrastructure among participating municipalities. And whereas the Rural Partners Network, RPN, is an intergovernmental project among several federal government agencies seeking to improve rural economies by growing local business and improving infrastructure in rural regions across the United States. Whereas the RPN coordinates efforts among federal government agencies to provide access to federal government resources and other programs for rural local governments. Whereas the participants of the NWCN seek to participate in RPN. Now be it resolved that to obtain the benefits of RPN, Trumpealeau County will participate in the NWCN. Introduced by Executive Finance Committee, Riley Foltz, John Austin, David Larson, Richard Seyshao.
Motion by Ms. Nutter,
Second.
second by Dr. Seyshao. Any discussion? Seeing none, no money involved, so we can just call the
Voice vote.
voice vote.
Call the voice vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it's carried. Item 2, suspension of board rule to change the date of the county board's annual meeting.
Whereas state statute and Trumpealeau County ordinance states that a county's annual meeting shall be held on the Tuesday after the second Monday in November. And whereas state statute also authorizes the county to move the date of the annual meeting to an earlier date in October or November. Whereas the county board approves the county's budget at the annual meeting in November. Whereas the county clerk's office is required to notify local municipalities of the approved budget information no later than November 15th each year. And whereas based on the timing required by state statute and local ordinance, the date of the county's 2022 annual meeting is the same date that the county clerk's office is required to notify the local municipalities of the approved budget information. Whereas the county clerk's office is unable to comply with the notification deadline due to the timing of the county's annual meeting. Whereas County Board Rule 23 allows the county board to suspend a board rule by a 2/3 vote, and whereas suspending Rule 1(3) to allow the board to establish a different date for its annual meeting would allow the county clerk's office to comply with its statutory duties. Now be it resolved that the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors hereby suspends County Board Rule 1(3) for the sole purpose of rescheduling the county's 2022 annual meeting in order to allow the county clerk's office to comply with its statutory duties. And be it further resolved that the date for the 2022 annual meeting shall be rescheduled to November 10th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Introduced by Executive Finance Committee, Richard Seyshao, John Austin, Riley Foltz, David Larson.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Larson, second by Ms. Turner. Any discussion?
Just that it's a long resolution just to change the date.
Yeah.
And
I think it was written by Clerk Duncan. There's nobody involved in this either, so this.
there's a question.
Oh, question?
Last month, I think we had put it for the 9th. Is there any reason we switched it to the 10th?
Was it?
You guys picked the date.
You can speak the date.
I don't
Yes. Huh?
I don't know, I don't,
Oh, because there was something
There
going
was
on
something
the
reason.
9th. There was,
The election's on Tuesday.
that's 8th. Oh, and the election stuff has to come into me on the 9th. So I'll be doing election stuff on the 9th.
Yeah,
That's
right.
it.
Okay.
Thank
know.
you. Thank you for bringing that up.
I know we had a reason.
yeah.
I have to watch the one you guys went from the 9th to the 10th. I have to review that video, so I changed as soon as you guys.
Yeah, we did, yeah, it was brought up at the exec meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brought up at the exec meeting, so. So this just has to be,
Okay, this is just a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we're
Mr.
down
Chair,
to
when it
item B,
require-
law
M-
enforcement
Mr. Chair?
emergency management.
oh.
What did I
Why
miss
don't
something?
we do the bridges?
Yeah, when it required a 2/3 vote, is that just by count or?
well, I was listening for no's.
Okay.
So I figured if somebody didn't vote,
Right.
their voice,
Two-thirds vote for this resolution?
yeah, it's a 2/3 vote. So did you hear any no's?
No, and I was listening as well too. If there would have been a number of no's, we would have then done a roll call. Yep.
Were
Thanks.
there any no's?
No.
There was not.
So we are on item D now, right?
Yes.
Law Enforcement Emergency Management Committee again, and this is support increased county child support funding.
Whereas Trempealeau County administers the Child Support Enforcement Program on behalf of the state, providing a holistic set of services to Trempealeau County children and their parents, including paternity establishment, assistance with finding employment, obtaining child support, and establishing health insurance orders for children, and enforcing and modifying those orders. Whereas child support is one of the most effective anti-poverty programs in the state, with county child support agencies serving approximately 347,000 children and collecting roughly $906 million in financial support for Wisconsin families in 2021. Whereas child support is proven to reduce childhood poverty rates, lead to better educational and behavioral outcomes for children, and have a positive effect on food security, health, and housing stability. And whereas county child support agencies work closely with both parents to ensure that they have the help they need to be successful, including assistance with finding employment, referrals to other social service programs, and right-sizing orders for individuals impacted by substances use disorders or other challenges. And whereas state funding for county child support services has failed to keep up with county agency costs, which have steadily increased due to a high number of caseloads per worker, increased complexity of cases, inflation, and new regulations. And whereas an abrupt federal interpretation change in June 2019 eliminated $4.2 million in federal birth cost recovery matching funds for Wisconsin. And whereas Wisconsin's strong performance in child support is at risk without additional funding. The state has already dropped from second in the nation for the collection of current support in 2016 to sixth in the nation in 2021. Whereas without additional state funds, county child support agencies may need to eliminate positions, further increase caseloads, or reduce services, further impacting federal performance measures, which would result in the loss of additional federal funds. And whereas the individuals most impacted by insufficient funding for child support are the children and families served by county child support agencies, who will need to seek other public assistance programming absent the financial security provided by the child support agency child support program. And whereas state investments in child support are amplified by a generous federal match, every $1 of state GPR invested in child support programs generates roughly $2 in federal matching funds. Whereas Wisconsin's child support enforcement program is incredibly cost-effective, collecting an average of $6.43 in support for every dollar invested in the program. Now be it resolved that the Trumpealeau County Board of Supervisors respectfully requests that state funding for county child support agencies be increased by $5 million GPR in each fiscal year of the 2023-25 Wisconsin state budget, which will generate approximately $9.7 million in additional federal funding each year. This investment will ensure that Wisconsin counties can continue to effectively provide economic support to our children. It is further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded by the county clerk to the governor of the state of Wisconsin, state senators and state representatives representing Trempealeau County, the secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Administration, and the Wisconsin Counties Association for consideration. Introduced by Law Enforcement Committee, Stacy Klein, Dan Schreiner, Ron Johnson.
Motion by Ms. Nutter, second by Mr. Johnson. I would suggest one change in the fourth whereas, where it says impacted substances abuse disorders. That should just be substance, not substances. Just remove the S. So it's just a typographical error.
Got that?
Yes.
Okay. This just, is there any discussion on it at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's this, somebody can explain this a little bit more? Please.
Law enforcement want to get up?
Please.
I can't give you the details on the mechanics, but it is similar to several of the other resolutions we send to the state that's saying Trempealeau County is in favor of what essentially is a pass-through and therefore increasing reimbursement monies that go to child support. And that's real brief and basic, but maybe Rick can correct me if any of that was inaccurate.
No, not at all. So the WCSEA, which is Wisconsin Child Support Enforcement Association, and the WCA, they came up with a template for this resolution, asking counties to consider it, because they're trying to, and not putting pressure isn't the right word to use, but basically wanting the state legislature to say, we need more money at county levels, and so please increase our funding. And in large part, it was due to that 2019 change in the federal, where we lost so much funding. And so this is trying to garner support across the different counties in the state and sending it to the governor and the legislature saying, give us more funding so that we can continue doing the job that we're doing in a positive way.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it.
Mhm. Jeannie has a question.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Nutter.
Okay, Mr. Niemeyer, do you know why the federal government took away that money? Because you're involved in child support now, so maybe, was there a reason?
The only thing that I do know is that there was a switch on the interpretation of what funds would be federally matched by the federal government. Birthing costs was one of them, and they changed their interpretation to say that they would no longer reimburse or match those funds. And so therefore, that was a significant amount of money that was collected by the state that was also matched by the federal government that they no longer do.
Okay.
So it was their interpretation of what the federal law was that they changed their position on it. Mhm. Yep.
Any other questions? Mr. Larson?
I'm not sure here, I might stick my foot in my mouth, but the last whereas, talking about collecting an average of $6.43 for every dollar invested. That dollar invested came from where? Is that, we're talking this 5 million and 9.7? Is that the $1 they're talking about in that whereas? To me, that paragraph seems just, it was kind of thrown in there without anything answering it.
It's the top whereas on the reverse side.
On the second
Second
whereas.
one. And I'm going to tell you what I think it's representing, is I think what they're saying is that the collections that the state agency does on a state level, how do I explain that? I'm not going to do a good job explaining that. What they're trying to represent is that the money that is spent, that is invested by the state and federal government, that in return you actually get more money back than what you're investing in the first place. But the actual numbers themselves and where they refer to, I don't have a specific answer for you at the moment.
Well, I was looking at that, if that was the case, where my brain was going, that for every dollar, now you put 14 more million here, there should be a line saying how much that should generate in support in the, now be it resolved.
Again, I don't have those numbers because I didn't have the numbers to put it together, so I don't have that information for you. I can certainly ask them, the ones who did put together, and find out if there is a number to put on what you're requesting.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
Is there a timeline that it's gotta be in by X month?
I don't know that there's a specific timeline. I think they're just trying to get things moving, as you know, sooner rather than later, just because of it all takes time to do. But I don't believe that there is a specific time frame. No.
Yes.
I think they would want it before, when the legislature goes back into session, which I think is soon, so.
I would assume that as well, but yeah, we were not given a time frame on this. Mhm.
I'm assuming they go back in January, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're just trying to support getting money back into child support, so that we don't have to lay off the people that work it, because it does generate quite a bit of money, and you have to have people out there that are actually going after the people who need to pay child support.
Mr. Miller.
Can I share my interpretation of you, David? Sir? Please do. I think all they are stressing here is Wisconsin Child Support Enforcement Program is incredibly cost effective. It now is collecting an average of $6.43 of every dollar invested in the staffing of the collection agencies. That's what I think they're saying.
Right.
So they're saying that, they're suggesting that Wisconsin is slipping a little bit in terms of its ranking of collections due to the pressures placed on them in terms of caseload. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good explanation to me.
It
Good
does,
job.
but I was still,
And they should have led with that earlier.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
It confused me because I look at that in support, and if you multiply those numbers out, they're looking at a potential $93 million in additional support payments coming in if this money is made available to use.
Correct. It does say that. That's what it's saying, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I was suggesting that a number like that, I don't have it exact, but 93 million should be resolved as a, to catch somebody's eye on how many dollars become
We're losing.
available by having the use of this.
They don't become available. Those dollars collected go to the custodial parents.
I know, but.
So it's really not becoming available, in my mind anyway.
Not available to the county, but.
Right.
Wait,
Go ahead.
some child support money does come to the county. If we have children in out-of-home care, we can, the parents pay 17% or whatever it is of their income for kids that are in out-of-home care. So the county does collect child support money for children that we place in out-of-home care.
Then it still goes to the parents taking care of the kids.
No, it comes to the county to offset the cost that we pay for kids in out-of-home care. The parents are supporting us through the child support.
Being kind of followed through, like I said.
Okay.
Out-of-home care is costly.
I know I'm kind of in that, my main job is kind of in out of home or semi-out. I know how expensive, so.
Any more comments? No, this isn't.
Just voice vote on this one.
Voice vote on this too, because it's no levy dollars involved.
Correct.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Hearing none, that's carried. Board of Health. Permit food purchases.
Whereas the current policy for the county is that it does not pay for the cost of any food purchases that staff might consume other than for approved travel unless there is express approval on an annual basis by the governing committee. Whereas there are instances when in the fulfillment of staff duties, they may consume food expense to the county while participating in events with those being served, such as community health improvement planning stakeholder meetings, community health assessment focus groups, professional development workshops with outside partners, hosting emergency preparedness activities or trainings, hosting regional consortium or coalition meetings, or other events used for gathering community input for strategic planning. Whereas the purpose of such food purchases is not to solely benefit staff, but is to benefit for those being served where staff may join them. And whereas the amounts that have been spent for food and have been approved by the governing committee are within the department's approved budget and are modest, not to exceed $300 for any such event. Whereas the Board of Health has approved these purchases via motions on an annual basis for compliance purposes, but has requested a resolution to allow such purchases within the budget on an ongoing basis. Whereas in May 2022, $19.50 was paid out of the Health Department's budget to cover employees' meals who attended a county community health improvement planning stakeholder meeting. Now be it resolved to allow payment for purchases of food which is not solely made for the purposes of benefiting staff, but where staff may partake other than staff meals while traveling, when the costs are within the approved annual budget. Be it further resolved that the Trempealeau County Board of Supervisors approves the $19.50 paid for employees' meals at the Community Health Improvement Planning Stakeholders Meeting. Co-introduced by Board of Health, Stacy Klein, Heather Fritsch, Kevin Adams, Pam Nelson, Dr. William Baxa, Dr. Kimberly Breedenbach, and co-introduced by Executive Finance Committee, Richard Seisha, John Austin, David Larson, Riley Foltz.
Motion by Ms. Nutter.
Move to approve, sorry, didn't have my mic on.
Seconded by Ms. Klein. Okay. Any discussion? No discussion? Call the roll.
How come Bridget got first again? Oh, we must start at a new pack. Because Bridget Turner?
Yes.
Stacy Klein?
Yes.
Richard Seisha?
Yes.
Lori Severson?
Yes.
Andy Todd?
Yes.
Heather Fritsch?
Yes.
Kevin Adams?
Yes.
Dick Miller?
Yes.
John Austin?
Yeah.
Robert Becker?
Yes, sir.
Dan Schreiner?
Yes.
Kellen Nelson?
Yes.
David Larson?
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter?
Yes.
Ron Johnson?
Yes.
15-0.
Audit Committee report, members' claims.
Whereas the Audit Committee has audited the following claims and recommend that they be allowed as follows. John Austin, $1,740.63. Kevin Adams, $124.38. Robert Becker, $901.25. Riley Foltz, $717.50. Heather Fritsch, $71.25. Ron Johnson, $566.25. Stacy Klein, $150. David Larson, $566.25. Dick Miller, $447.50. Kellen Nelson, $188.14. Jeannie Nutter, $193.75. David Orsh, $326.28. Richard Seisha, $677.50. Dan Schreiner, $740.63. Lori Severson, 0. Andy Todd, 0. Bridget Turner, $602.50. Grand total per diem, $6,100. Expenses, $1,913.81. Grand total, $8,013.81. Now be it resolved that the claims be allowed as shown. Introduced by Audit Committee, John Austin, Dan Schreiner, Kellen Nelson.
Motion by Ms. Turner. Second by Mr. Nelson. Discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Bridget Turner,
Yes.
Stacy Klein,
Yes.
Richard Seisha,
Yes.
Lori Severson,
Yes.
Andy Todd,
Yes.
Heather Fritsch,
Yes.
Kevin Adams,
Yes.
Dick Miller,
Yes.
John Austin,
Yeah.
Robert Becker,
Yes,
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
David Larson.
Yes.
15-0.
Okay, we're down. Did I miss one? Wasn't there more?
What?
thought I had more announcements.
That's all.
Down on the announcements, letter of resignation. You want to read the letter? I think everybody got a copy of it, but we'll read it anyway.
Oh, you want it read?
And we have a guest in the audience.
Please accept my resignation from the Trumpealeau County Board. Due to the consistent conflict with my work schedule and non-comparative pay, I have made the difficult decision to resign. I have thoroughly enjoyed being a part of the county board and appreciate what I have learned. I may return someday, but for now and for my family's sake, I will be taking a step back from being the representative for District 11. There's a lot of work to be done in the county, and I trust there will still be progress made in my absence. That being said, I would like to nominate Heather Fritsch to the Vice Chair of the County Board. She got the drive and the ambition this county needs to continue to make steps in the right direction. I would also like to encourage Mike Chitko to be accepted as my replacement representative for District 11. Mike has expressed his interest, resides in the district, and I believe he would be a valuable asset to the county. Please take these nominations into consideration when accepting my resignation. Sincere thanks, Riley Foltz.
Thank you for your service there, Riley.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're probably gonna talk about this. Yeah.
Anyway, the application is in the paper for replacements for him. The next ad comes out in this Thursday's paper, and Friday
Wednesdays.
or Wednesday's paper, and Friday is the deadline. So we'll be doing interviews. So far, we have 2 candidates. If there's more, we'll interview them, and
Just him.
well, usually I have either Paul with me and I'll probably have Kayla, seeing how Krista's not. I usually have HR. So, yeah,
He'll come to the November County Board.
yeah. So, yeah, yeah.
And then if they're approved by the county board, are they sworn in that night or how does it work?
They'll be
Yeah.
sworn in
Yeah.
that day.
That'll be the day. That'll be the day meeting in November that happens. In the meantime,
that poor guy or gal. Oh, that poor guy or gal. Oh my,
in
yeah.
the meantime, we have a vacancy on the county board or for vice chair. So I'm looking for nominations for the vice chair to come from this floor. Yes.
I'd like to nominate Dave Larson.
I'll second. But do we need a second?
You don't second.
Don't need a
No.
second.
Any nomination? Dave Larson, Mr. Miller,
Richard Turner,
nominated. Bridget Turner's been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Are there any nominations? Any other nominations? Is that 3?
That's 3.
Okay. I appreciate your input, Riley, but you're no longer on the board, so your nomination doesn't count unless you're sitting in that chair.
I actually called Dave Larson because I don't have the time to commit to it anyway, so.
Okay. He's made up some ballots. This will do on you write your choice, and if it gets a tie, we'll run it again. We could actually have a tie tonight, couldn't we?
With 50?
no, we've got
There's 15. Okay.
Now that you showed up, Doc.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We were 14.
Tiebreaker.
You could have Stacy and Ron then do that.
Okay. Stacy and Ron, would you guys like to be the? Oh,
Keep one for yourself. And they do sign it.
They do, yes.
there you go. Pretty fancy paper too.
It is very.
Recycled paper.
I try to use as best I can. And then do not forget to sign. You sign your name.
Thank you, Ron.
You sign.
Thank you, sir.
But this is kept in confidence, though.
We signed our name, but.
No.
This one you sign for vice, oops, I took.
Yes.
For vice chair, you sign your name.
Oh, you do?
It's for the
Just-
chair that you
chair
do
you
not
don't.
sign.
Well,
This one you do sign.
He did take
I got one.
Did you keep one for yourself?
Well, David isn't here, and he probably had.
No. Oh, yes, I had 16. We did 16. Thank you. We better, in case that,
I'll recall that.
oh, no, you gotta, these all have 16, so I gotta put one out. Yeah, the two. And then,
So you're doing it again.
they could use this. And Ron, if you want to.
As tellers, did you vote?
Oh.
You wrote yours down in a hurry.
Come all the way up.
Thank you, Ron.
You can use this to, you wanna go in the
Yeah,
kitchen?
she
and
she already, yeah, she got it.
Ron, you wanna go in the kitchen?
Go in the kitchen.
Go in the kitchen with Stacy and you're gonna count. You maybe don't even need the paper, cause you'll just count the 2 piles probably. Yeah, whichever.
Well, just put it down the number anyway.
Yeah.
Remember last time we had to do this, we all took a while and you had to make jokes out here?
Yeah.
Took the vice chair in before. Oh, yeah, you, yeah.
I don't have any jokes. Do you have any jokes?
I do have jokes, but they're not clean enough for you.
You took off.
It's a long meeting.
We didn't talk about much.
No, we didn't. Actually, the presentation was pretty good. She actually kept it living.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah. She's a good speaker.
Yeah.
The training we had this time versus last time.
Yeah.
Where did they go?
Go quicker, yeah.
Yes, the last one was.
Oh, great. But you're right.
Club.
You can see she enjoys it.
Yeah, yeah.
And she does a good job.
The book club at the library in Stroman.
She talks fast, though.
Yeah, but see, I grew up in EPAS, they all talk fast.
So,
I don't have fast talking
I have a question.
earpieces there, though.
Put mine in.
never missed a meeting. Yeah.
My 2 farmers, when is the latest you can?
Okay. Let's get this back in order here, get this meeting over with. Anyway, the election for the vice chair, the results were David Larson 10, Bridget Turner 5. So our new vice chair is David Larson. Congratulations. I didn't have any other announcements. Well, he's already on exec finance, so whoever comes in, we'll have to figure out a way to make committees. If somebody from this floor ends up with too many committees, we'll have to do some swapping. So somebody could lose a committee or gain a committee, it depends on what happens. We'll have to figure that out in November.
Could be even longer meeting now, it's already long.
Yeah, so anyway, correspondence, I didn't have any. Did you? Okay,
You skipped this one.
I did? Oh, yeah, I skipped the budget, exec finance committee budget and general fund updates. He also handed out the long sheets, which basically you should look over. That's kind of the budget he'll be going through in.
And also
in
the
November.
booklets, the books are also, so both of those, please bring back to the November meeting, okay?
both of what?
So the long sheets are what I get to read. The booklet has it down to line items. So you can see where everything is at. You'll see at the end of the last page of the 27 pager, shows what our equalized value is and what our new mill rate would be if that budget passes as is.
Oh, what was the mill rate from last year?
$6.19. And this one is $6.07. So taxes would go down.
Did our equalized value go up?
Quite a bit. Our net new construction did not. That was only a 0.9. 0.9%? I think it was 0.9%. I'm looking at this. I look at somebody and then it comes in my head, you know. So I think it was a 0.93 is what I think it was.
Okay. Correspondence none. Instruction to pay the clerk mileage. Is there a motion to do that? Motion by Ms. Turner and second by Ms. Nutter. Roll call.
I better cross off some names here. Well, John Austin,
Yeah.
Robert Becker,
Yes.
Dan Schreiner,
Yes.
Kellen Nelson,
Yes.
David Larson,
Yes.
Jeannie Nutter,
Yes.
Ron Johnson,
Yes.
Bridget Turner,
Yes.
Stacy Klein,
Yes.
Richard Sasha,
Yes.
Lori Severson,
Yes.
Andy Todd,
Yes.
Heather Fritsch, Kevin Adams,
Yes.
Dick Miller.
Yes.
15-0.
15-0, it passes. So we can adjourn this meeting at 8:14 PM.